Happy Wednesday, Coos County. We're here with the Citizen Council live stream. I'm Chris Castleman and my co-host, Brandy Martindale. How's it going?
How is everyone?
Pretty good. Let me bring on our guests. We've got quite a few people joining us today. We've got newly elected CCAT board member, Phil Taylor. How's it going, Phil?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Good to see you. And Perry Holman, our usual go-to guest.
Hey, Perry.
Crime fighter extraordinaire.
Hey, Perry.
Perry, you're on mute. There you go.
Is it working now? It's working
Yeah.
all right? All right. I have a different setup I'm trying.
All right. Very cool. And we've got the nearly famous Rob Taylor from the Rob Taylor Report.
Just nearly.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I want to send out a congratulations to Phil Taylor. You rock. You kicked ass in the election, and we appreciate that, man.
Thank you, sir.
100%. Boom, boom, boom.
I wish I could have said that at the meeting. Thank you, guys, but I guess I'll have to do it here.
We'll
That
give
was
you the
weird.
opportunity. let me bring up real quick. Let me bring on one more. Last but not least, Jeremy Miller of the famous. What was your famous line? This is why we don't trust you.
This is why we don't trust you.
How's it going, Jeremy?
Hi.
Behind you doing?
So yeah,
How's it going?
Phil, you didn't even get so we're here to talk about the Republican meeting from last week. And the Democrats met and the Republicans met after the election to either celebrate or lick wounds. And we were all at the Republican meeting because we're mostly conservative. And Phil, you're like the only candidate who was opposed in a race where they were
Yep.
opposed and prevailed. And yet you were given no quarter at the meeting. What?
Oh, I'm glad I didn't prepare remarks. I was very surprised at how that meeting went. That's not what I was
Yeah.
expecting.
Yeah, I mean, you should have at very least, right in the beginning, like Phil Taylor, we got Phil here, bring him up on stage, give you, at least a minute and a half, right? Would that have been fair?
Yeah,
Jeez.
I assumed it was going to be a bad meeting when the cops were threatened to be called. So
Yeah. Well, that was when, as soon as they saw Rob Taylor, they were like, this is going to get
Well,
rowdy.
two Taylors at one table. That's probably not a good thing.
A recipe for disaster.
Hmm.
But yeah, Rob, you were saying, what were you saying? He should have been given the opportunity to talk, right? I mean, come on.
Every meeting that I used to go to for the Republican Party, we always did an introduction. It was like, the everyone around the room would introduce themselves. Hi, I'm Rob Taylor. I'm glad you're here at the intervention. I appreciate you all coming. And, it works out really well. But they didn't even do that at this meeting because that's how socially awkward the leadership is. And I would have definitely had Phil Taylor and all the other candidates who won or didn't win stand up because Pam Lewis was there. And Pam won her seat. I think it was an uncontested seat, but she won. And nobody ever found that out because, once again, this guy who's the chair just doesn't seem to have the social skills to realize that there's a whole other group of people out there who want to hear from him. And there you go.
I would want to hear from everybody at the meeting, whether you want to race or not, like what brought you here today, especially if we don't know you, like, especially if I've never talked to you and you're an unfamiliar face. It would intrigue me to the max to know why you're there and who, what part of the community do you represent and how can we make you feel welcome and how can we connect you with whatever you're here for, I don't know, but maybe that's crazy talk.
I haven't felt that unwelcome at a get together since the last Taylor family reunion. And I was actually invited to that meeting. And that was weird. So
They invited us on their Facebook page, and I felt completely unwelcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the first month that there was an actual invitation that went out. And I don't understand that either. I mean, it should be like promoted, like, right? Like, why would we not want other like-minded conservatives to come? Why would we not want to grow that network?
If you read what they wrote in their what to expect, nothing that I expected from the what to expect actually happened at the meeting. So
yeah. The Republican Party, the conception of it would be to network and support candidates and support conservative values, and I didn't feel any of that. And so I'm the vice chair of the Republican Party for Coos County, and I have never been able to have any input on the agenda. Like, it's just handed to us, and it's like there was a whole 2-page agenda. It was like front and back, full 2 pages of a lot of stuff. Like there was a lot of content on there, and the chair went through a lot of it, and that's kind of like that's his golden thing. Like, he's really good at the state and federal level politics and knowing all that. And it all has a time and a place, but like right after an election with a bunch of, I mean, there was probably, I don't know, 2/3 of the room was like new people that have either never been to a meeting or haven't been to one in very long. And it's just a very, like, couldn't read the room to understand that there were other conversations that were wanting to be had. And anybody, Perry, like, what did you think? You got ejected.
No, I didn't. I would refuse. No. I guess I set myself up for what happened, but I didn't expect anything more than what I got, which is pretty bad. When they don't want to talk to you about anything and just want to run their own little thing while they're hiding in a hole and cowering from everybody, it's a joke.
Yeah. We got some people on asking. So we got Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for watching as always. Bill says, just arrived. Remind us of what meeting you're talking about, please. We're talking about the Republican meeting, Coos County Republicans. There was a pretty largely attended meeting last week to talk about the election. Conservatives in the area did not do too well, and a lot of people had a lot of things to say about it. And, the Citizen Council, this unit, we try and remain nonpartisan, but one of the big things that started what we're doing here is that the community is not being listened to, right? Like, we have these values as a community, and we go to these meetings and we try and participate in government type functions, and we're just kind of told to shut up. We're told that we're not important enough. We're told that, we're not elitist enough to be part of their club. We're told that we don't, you have to wait in line, or you have to win an election to matter, I guess. And like, elections do matter. Democracy is a thing, but like, everyone's opinion should be valued, and you should be at least inquisitive to find out if there's people passionate enough to attend these meetings, which are not normally riveting. They're boring. You take a time out of your evening to go to a city council meeting or a college board meeting or something. You've got a lot to say, right? Like you're there for a reason, and you'd think people at the top would want to know why you're there and understand it and help kind of figure it out, but they don't. So we all went to the Republican meeting because conservative, Coos County is about 60% conservative. If you look at how they voted in the presidential elections the past couple years, and but that's not represented in our city councils, on our county commissioner level, and it's I think due to a lack of disorganization, or a lack of organization, major disorganization. I think that's what Allison was asked. Oh yeah, Allison says, I was about 10 minutes late, but that was the most unorganized meeting I've ever been to. Wow. Yeah. So she was 10 minutes late to the meeting last Thursday. Well, you didn't miss much. You probably missed the craziest part of it, but like there's Robert's Rules of Orders. Like there's a process to a meeting, and even that process couldn't be followed. But go ahead, Perry. You were about to just say.
So I guess I'll start with how I got involved with that Republican Party a little bit. You invited me to the Facebook group. I joined them. I started realizing that the Democrats were out and pushing their candidates, and the Republicans were nowhere to be found. I was asked numerous times who these candidates are. Nobody even knows who they are, what they believe in, nothing. And so I emailed the Republican Party and asked them what was up with it, and never got a response. So then I made a post on their page about how they're hiding in a hole and just letting the Democrats do whatever they want and say whatever they want, and they're not coming back with anything. And it's literally like they are hiding in a hole. You can't find them. You can't find information about anybody, nothing. And so that got me kicked out of there, banned and kicked out of that group. And then you brought me back, and I decided to talk about David Brock Smith endorsing Democrats instead of Republicans. That got me kicked out. You put me back in. And then I went on to talk about how conservatives can become corrupt. And that got me kicked out, and I wasn't able to get back in. But Rod Schilling, who is a big part of that Republican Party, decided to call you and say that I need to not run my mouth online. I need to come in person to the meetings and talk. So I did. And that lasted about 10 minutes. And he threatened to call the cops on me, and I wasn't going to leave, and I wasn't going to do anything. And he cowered down. And I eventually left it like half an hour into it because I couldn't take anymore.
Yeah, he thinks you're a keyboard warrior, which you're absolutely not, and that's a total cop out. And then when you show up and you want to talk, he doesn't want to hear it. I mean, he didn't even know who you were. And after the meeting, I told him, I was like, that was so and so, and he was like, oh. He's like, well, good riddance. And it's like, but I thought you wanted to hear, you wanted him to talk to you. And then you don't. He's like, I don't give a shit what that guy, he's like all mad. If that's how he's going to act, it's like, God, he's acting like that because you're repeatedly shutting someone up. So he's the prior chair. I think, how long was he chair for, Rob? Like 8 years? Something like that. Oh, you're on mute, man.
Muted.
No, that seems a little long. Maybe 6 years ago. That does seem a little long. 8 years. He came in when he had just recently been mayor in Lakeside. He had come in, brought a whole bunch of PCPs from Lakeside and surrounding areas, and got a whole lot of votes. And later on, I stopped attending because it was getting very authoritarian, and I suspected at the time it was from above. The state party wants to have authority over the local party so they can pick the candidates that they want to groom and put forward. And you can see where that has gotten us. And it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be from the bottom up. It's supposed to be from the individual to the precinct captain, and we were trying to be precinct captains. We couldn't even get to that level, and that's the way it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen from the bottom up, and like you said, Brandy, more organically, because you have to be adaptive, and what they have built is an adaptive machine that doesn't react and it's not proactive either by no stretch of the imagination. And so you got to ask, what the hell are we doing with this? And I called it to what it was to Rod Schilling that night. They have a captive party, which is captive by the state and captive by the candidates who have won. And because they've won, they've used their authority as their position to rule over these parties, and they get the chair they want. And in Douglas County, they got an entire executive board. And when people were challenging that, they got 6 people recalled from the board for just asking the same questions that we were asking on Thursday. They were asking those questions about the election a couple elections ago, and they got in trouble for it. And it's sad that the party is manipulated this way. And I talk to a lot of people who are not normally in our little circle of people. I talked to Steve Nye, and he's got the same impression. Everything he said was exactly what I'm telling you now. That it just seems like there's something else manipulating the system that wants to have a dupe for a chair because they can manipulate them, and you can see what happens. I mean, that meeting would have been easily controlled by just doing what I said. Start out the meeting by as soon as Perry would have mouthed off, I would have said, "Hey, Gary, mouthing off. I mean, tell us, sir, please tell us, give us something, you know." And I'm just joking with you, Perry. You know what I mean? As soon as you spoke up, I would have wanted to hear what you have had to say. And I don't know. Maybe I'm not thin-skinned because I'm used to being yelled at. And so people yell at me. That's fine. Go ahead and tell me what is the problem. Let me know, and let's hear from everyone in the room. And they should have stopped and did that, because there's nothing in Robert's Rules of Orders. There's nothing in their agenda that says even on the agenda they could have put public comment at the very beginning. And they didn't. And you have to ask yourself why. And I go back to it's a captured, controlled group. So
well, and you got to think that it was leading up to that too. Like all those times that Perry was just talking about how he was trying to speak up and trying to get some questions answered and trying to get things addressed. Mm-hmm. And he's being repeatedly shushed away. And then it's being covered up. Like Perry posts something and it's well worded, like you're articulate, like and you're good about explaining yourself, and then it's deleted. Like it's like, not only do we want you out of this group, this social media group, but we want to remove evidence that there was discontent with what we're doing. That's crazy. And just for people watching who don't have context, it's like when I was elected in November, I was eventually given access to moderate, this Republicans of Coos County Facebook group, because it was run by the Republicans of Coos County organization. And that's why I'm watching this happen. I'm watching Perry's comments getting removed and him getting kicked out. And I'm like, whoa. Like, he's not saying anything outrageous. He's not being abusive. He's not being offensive or anything. He's just stating questions or even just stating facts. And so I had him back in because that's not how we should handle things. And the old chair, not somebody who's currently in a leadership position, somehow still has access to this, and he's the one doing all this to Perry. And that's bullshit. And then he claims, after I called him the other day, that it's his group and it's not the Republican Party's group. So he kicks me out. He kicks a bunch of us out, and it's his group now. And he says, you can go make your own group. So very, very, and then, they call people like us uncooperative, right? Like, I just can't even.
Hey, Chris,
gaslighting.
Before we go any further, I don't know whose mic is giving the feedback there, but I'm getting feedback. I don't know if the rest of you are, and it's because one of you has a mic on, and when the other talks, it gives that feedback sound. And so if you will mute your mic when you're not talking, it won't make that sound, just to let you know.
Okay. It's going to be hard to remember to unmute when you want to talk, but it's either Brandy or Phil at this point, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, just try and mute your mics.
Do I sound okay?
You sound fine. There is just like a little humming, but I don't think it's that bad.
I'm not hearing it on my end, so.
Yeah. All right. So Jeremy or Phil, whoever wants to take this, because you guys haven't talked much. Like, what would you guys weren't able to say much at the meeting? So, like, what would you like to say? Because I'm sure they're watching. Like, the other people in leadership of the Republican Party are watching. I mean, like, what can we do about this, and what conversation should we be having?
Well, I wanted to know why they invited us. I wanted to know why they invited us, and then didn't want anyone to speak. When I spoke, I was I don't remember her name. She got upset because apparently I cut her off, and she lost her train of thought. She actually literally yelled at me and said, "Thanks for making me lose my train of thought, and then sat down. I was just asking what she was talking about.
Julie.
Because she had
Yeah, that
mentioned
was
how
Julie
they
Keats.
had mentioned how they had supported a bunch of candidates, and I wanted to know what she was talking about, where we were able to find that when they put that out, because I was looking for it and couldn't find it. And
yeah, people get too like they take things too personal, and then they get aggressive for it.
Yes.
It's and like if you're stepping up to the plate into a leadership position, like you're gonna get yelled at, you're gonna get criticized. You know, if you're saying, hey, we're responsible for helping people win an election, well, then if you don't and you lose, you're responsible for that too. Like it's not a one-way street. You know, it's
there
like
was no accountability. That's
accountability.
What
That's
made
a good
me
word.
Start like yelling things. There was zero accountability, and the numbers he was going over, I had in my hand. I already looked at them several days before. We all knew what the numbers were. We all knew we lost, so it was ridiculous.
30 minutes of going over those numbers was pointless.
Yeah. That was physically painful. It hurt my heart.
I mean, it would be one thing to go over the numbers and be like, look, this is how bad we did, and we've got to know so we can learn. But
there was no
the
point
numbers
to it.
we were being shown were like trying to compare. Essentially, the conclusion from the numbers we were being shown was that these elections have been happening normal. Like the number of votes each year keep going up, total votes,
I thought
but the conservative votes went down. Well, the conservative votes, but the total votes for each race were on a normal, curve or linear line.
26%.
It was like everything's normal. We're losing right on schedule.
Yeah.
Like
and
it's
how dare you be mad about that? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
As a layperson, I wasn't sure what the point of all of those numbers were. My eyes were glassing over. It was
not a good presentation.
The way they were presenting those numbers, I used to break that type of data down for a living, more complex data than that. But the data sets that he was giving you and the way he was presenting with them to us, there was no point. There was no deeper thought beyond just a tally of digits.
Right. It was futile. There was no correlation between that, the campaign, and anything that went on during the election. And we're all sitting there just going, wow, we can't even talk about what we want to talk about, which would be very simple. It wouldn't take that much effort. And he should have set that aside. And all he had to do was make a point of order, which, boy, they're all getting quick on that. I don't know if you kept hearing that when they were making points of order all over the place to try to get back away from Chris being able to say anything. I don't know if you guys caught that, but
I did catch that.
Yeah.
It almost felt like a weaponized procedure so that they could subvert the will of the people. It was weird.
And the intention of Robert Rules of Order is the opposite. The intent of Robert's Rules of Order is not only order, but it's also to protect the minority voice and allow them a process to be heard and be acknowledged. That's the point of it. It's not supposed to be a weapon to silence.
Not allowing someone with a handicap who was participating via video, Michael refusing to count his vote. I'm pretty sure that's an ADA violation. And if the people who were victim of that ADA violation are watching, Chris has a lot on his plate. I am really good with HR type stuff. And if you'd like to reach out to me, I would be really happy to help you walk you through the process of filing a complaint, because that was a blatant and egregious act of discrimination against a person who was asking for completely reasonable accommodations.
Not to mention just
and
disrespectful.
People that we're supposed to care about. I mean, like it's Carol and Omar Yardley. One of them's a school board member, and they're both deeply cared about in our community and in the party. Why would we not want to allow them to participate and hear what they have to say and give them the right to vote that they've earned? I mean, it's like
when we can, we
and I asked before the meeting, Yeah. And I set so they reached out to me right before the meeting. I set it up, I used the same streaming platform to be able to video conference them in. And, it's as simple as that. We live in a modern world. where we're able to do that. And it was, yeah, they didn't want, Michael didn't want anything to do with it.
I would like us all to just step back and appreciate the impact that selection methods for positions of leadership based on anything other than merit produce undesirable results. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. If you are choosing your leaders based on anything other than merit, you are going to have a poor outcome. And it's almost like the Republicans didn't learn from the failures of like the DEI catastrophe over the last 4 years, where completely unqualified people have been placed in positions and people have been blatantly discriminated against because of the color of their skin.
Brandy, it was intentional. The reason they put Michael up there is because we all saw his appearance. We saw how he speaks. We saw how he dresses, how he behaves. And of course, anyone looks at him thinks, is something just, he's not altogether there. You know what I mean? He doesn't present a powerful person to be in a position of that type of authority. And you're looking at that and you're thinking, this just doesn't make sense. I believe it's intentional. That's why Rod Schilling was grooming him the whole time to
How could they not know
the chair. And they did know. They knew that we wouldn't be able to attack him because of all the DEI that you just talked about. We wouldn't be able, and you even said that. What was the comment you made? And it was funny because, we don't want to beat up on somebody who looks like the chair of the Republican Party, but yet you have to, because you're critiquing his job performance. And it's just like going to the city council and all these other school boards.
What do you mean what he looks like?
Well, not what he looks like, what he acts like, what he behaves, his professional mannerism. You know what I mean? It's
an entitled white man.
Not an entitled white man. He just looks a little bit slow. He's awkward. I don't know. You didn't catch that about him?
No, I was thinking more along the lines of who the heck behaves like him and thinks, you know what, I deserve to be here. Like
okay.
I wish I had an ounce of the confidence that these people would have to have. What do you do for a living where you can afford that level of audacity? Because you're right, though. He did come across as a nervous 12-year-old presenting in middle school. But how do you look at that and be like, no, but I belong in this really important role promoting?
That's kind of where I was going at. Now that you put someone in that position, what is that person going to think? Because, even someone who's quick-witted is, once they're exalted to a higher position in society, they immediately put on this power and grandeur that they're somebody special when we know they're not. And we know politicians who do this all the time. And so that's the type of thing that you do to anybody, because he's just like anyone else. He's going to have those same feelings of grandeur when he's put in those positions. And of course, he's going to feel like, well, if they put me here, then I must belong here. But we all know the reason they put him there wasn't because he was qualified. He's certainly not qualified for that job, but they put him there because he was easily manipulated. And I'll shut up because I know I'm going to get in trouble with a lot of people for saying that crap.
It was pretty obvious that he was just following instructions. And it was pretty obvious that a number of times he got lost. He didn't know what he was supposed to do. He would look around the room trying to figure out who could point him in the right direction. That was my impression.
It's giving Fall Guy. Like, no one could have watched what we watched that evening and thought, you know what, this guy totally worked his way up into this position.
He has zero
dedication. No, you could tell he's probably a really nice guy. He was just terrified and totally out of his element. And I have to say to the people who have put him in the position he's in, you guys are cruel. You guys are awful for having done that to him. He is getting eaten alive, completely out of his element, way in over his head, cannot lead this party to a win. And y'all put him there, and you did him dirty.
I think I scared him a little bit when I walked up to him and made my exit. His eyes got pretty big.
Oh, poor guy.
He looked a little frightened.
Yeah. I hate to see a person set up to fail. And I feel like that's
Yeah.
what I witnessed.
Yeah, it's kind of like someone's playing a joke on him and everybody, and it's really embarrassing. But Phil, I gotta mute you. It's your mic that's doing the feedback. So when you want to talk, you're gonna have to like give me some some sort of motion, and I'll unmute you, or you can manage it yourself. But that's where the feedback's coming from. Sorry, buddy. Perry, you're back. You're not a little silhouette anymore. I feel like you've got something to say, and that's why you've returned.
Oh no! So Michael's that little scared puppy dog, and then Rod thinks he's some bouncer at that place, but Rod has nothing either. I mean, he can call the cops, and that's all he can do. He trying to accuse me of not being on topic and all these other things instead of being man enough to actually talk about something. And they don't want to change. They want people to bow at their feet and do what they say. And you're not even allowed to ask questions.
If anyone was off topic, it was him.
Yeah, that was really weird. I
Right.
got yelled at for being off topic, and then I asked what the agenda item we were on was, and it was the election, and I was literally talking about the election, and but whatever.
You know, when you
Allison-
were saying that, I'm sorry, when you were saying
ahead.
that it was the
Go ahead.
election, Brandy and several of the people around us at the table were yelling that from the table, and I don't know if you could have heard them, but yeah, when you were saying that, we are talking about the election. It was like we all totally were like, this is
Yeah.
ridiculous. What about losing is not about the election, buddy. That's kind of the most important part. We lost, asshole. I mean, come on.
It was pretty weird, and I'm sitting there like I think it was like a 2-hour meeting, hour and a half or so. The whole time I'm sitting there just going like, is it like what? And are the words coming out of my mouth not what I think they are? Like I was just like, what is happening? Or like when we were discussing something, we were debating something according to Robert's Rules of Order, and then someone just said, I'd like to end debate and call the question, which means like we all vote on the motion. Well, that requires a 2/3 majority, right? Because like a body is debating something. One person cannot just unilaterally end it, right? Like that would be the ultimate power. And Michael granted it. He just said, okay. And I was like, whoa. 2/3 majority is required to do that. And I'm holding up Robert's Rules of Order and asking like, do you even know? Like, anyways, you're just sitting there going like, what is happening? Because we either follow this or we don't. I mean, there's no point in following it if you're not doing it right. Then you're just weaponizing it and picking and choosing what rules to use to get your way. But yeah, Allison had a question kind of in that regard. She said she was left with more questions than answers after the meeting. Are they required to follow public meeting rules and regulations? If so, they are required to give 1 week public notice of the meeting with an agenda, and they are required to provide an alternative means to attend. Pretty much all the above. I mean, they're not a government organization, but we have bylaws, and there's like state ORS, then there's state Republican Party bylaws, and then there's Coos County Republican bylaws, and then in all of those bylaws, they tell us to follow Robert's Rules of Orders, which everybody follows. So there's multiple levels of regulations and ways to figure out how to manage these meetings, and the first thing is this 10 days notice before all meetings. That's what we're supposed to give. Michael gave 8 days notice for that meeting, which matters. Like those 2 days do matter. And there's a process. You either follow it or you don't. You either follow the bylaws or you just completely disregard them. And no agenda was given. I don't think I got the agenda until I don't think I got it until I got to the meeting. We're not given the agenda. When we asked to get things on the agenda, we're just ignored. And then, yeah, the alternative means to attend. I mean, like we've all attended meetings. You watch them on YouTube. It's every government body allows remote attendance.
Right.
and participation. The Coos Bay City Council, I know, has, I believe, 2 members that like are permanently virtual. They vote virtual every single time. And our executive team for the Republican Party meets virtually and votes virtually. So it's insane. Like, I've brought that up. Why
So
would
he
we be
just
allowed to vote
blatantly picked and
virtually?
chose. I have to interrupt you, Chris. So this
Yeah.
guy made a decision on the fly, like out of the ordinary procedures, to actively discriminate against a disabled person by disallowing their vote by video.
He
That's what
has
he's saying.
so I've asked for this since November. Why, like, can we please have remote attendance at these meetings to because there's 48 voting members of the body, and they're not all able to attend. A lot of them are elderly,
But he's allowed
or they're from
votes by
Powers or
video.
Myrtle Point. Like, what's that?
You guys have done virtual votes. It's been in attendance by video and video vote in the past.
Right. Well, he claims that that's only for the executive committee, and somehow that's magically different, which is not written anywhere. There's
But
nothing
he's
in our
demonstrated
bylaws
he could do it.
that
He's
Right,
demonstrated
and there's
he can
nothing
do it, and so that is
for
a
sure.
reasonable accommodation that he could extend to a disabled person, and he didn't do it.
100%.
And if they want to sue
Yep.
him, I have a lawyer.
Yep. No, you're
like, dude,
100%
he better-
right.
He needs
It's
to
insane.
step down, or he's going to end up getting sued. And I want to help him do it. I know, Chris, that you are really like against litigiousness, but
I am.
most of my closest
So sue me.
colleague/friends are attorneys, and I kind of like grew up in my career alongside attorneys, and I will tell you that they get a lot more done than any of us.
She's a Yankee. It's because she's a Yankee. You do know
is.
this.
It
It
is.
is.
I mean,
And take that with pride.
No, I
was
mean, there's
born
a
in
time and
250,
place.
so
man, I'll tell
I
you
don't know how
what,
to say
when
that.
someone gets sued for discriminating against a disabled person, they stop what they're doing very quickly.
I mean, it just doesn't, like, I guess the thing I don't like about lawyers is, like, we don't even have to go that far to know that it doesn't make sense. Like, we are in the
I'm
year
not trying to make it make
2025.
sense.
We can,
I'm trying to fix
no, I know.
it.
That's why I can't even deal with people like this. Like, I'm done with the guy. I'm done with anyone who supports him. It's like, for somebody to sit there and be like, yeah, that's our guy. The guy who won't allow 2 elderly people who are homebound to attend a meeting because he's an asshole. Oh, I like that guy, and I think he should be a leader. He seems like someone we want to bring a community together and build around. Like, full stop.
Well,
Anyone who supports him is like, that's over. It's people. Get a new person in there.
well, we need to get a new person. And okay, so have you thought about any new people? I mean, that is something serious we have to think about. And I have been thinking about it a little bit, and I think there is a solution, and it may be in one person. And I don't know if you know him. Have you met Jim Jordan?
Yeah. He's
Was he at the meeting?
I mean, he was the chair of the North Bend School Board.
Chair of the North Bend School Board. I've known Jim for a long time. He's a stand-up guy. He's the most honest person that I've ever met. I believe his wife was a judge. Okay. And he's worked in oil fields all over the world. He's a professional man. He handled the North Bend School Board fabulously. And I was thinking, maybe we could come to an agreement with the other side by bringing someone to the table that we could all accept. And we all thought, we were willing to work with Michael until he proved that he was completely incapable of doing the job. Jim is someone who actually follows through on doing things if he's willing to do it. I haven't talked to him, but I think we need to start looking at people to take the job, because they're going to ask us who's there to fill those positions. Because if you do it, I do it, anyone on this screen probably does it. They're going to think that it's some type of coup of the party. And you and I both know, because we've discussed this, that's the last thing we want. We don't want a position really on the executive board. You took the chair, the vice chair, because it was politically expedient. You know what I mean? It was something that worked well with everyone. And I thought that was such a good idea. And I think that we're such better in our position, because look at how transparent we are being. We are putting all of our cards on the table. We're not telling them anything that they don't already know. And it's not like we're being deceptive, because this is what our intentions are. And to me, if we have good intentions and there's good reason for what we're doing, we shouldn't feel any guilt about it, and we should be completely transparent with it. And just where I'm going with that. I've been drinking pot soak here. I'm sorry.
Dialogue, collaboration, communication, like those are the key, and that's the foundation. And then from there, you can do all the other things. You can put on events, you can do committees, and like you can build upon that because you're working together and you're communicating. That is not happening right now. And yeah, whoever it is, my vision for it would be, I mean, if Michael should resign and do it quickly so we can move on and figure this out. And the way that would look would be at the next meeting, we would be able to put it out there that we're going to reorganize. We're going to have a new election and allow people to come in and talk about what we want out of the Republican Party. Have a meeting, maybe even two, that are totally open, like town hall style. Let's brainstorm, let's collaborate, let's communicate around what do we want as a party, without anybody controlling it, without anybody being, a higher level than anyone else. Totally
and no
wide
one
open.
trying to be conflict avoidant. I'm so sick of people
Right.
being like, we all need to get along. That's not
Exactly.
how groups form. Stop doing that, please. Yeah, there has
I mean,
to be
a leader would
healthy
kind of make
debate.
sure everything. Yeah, right. The debate needs to be like smooth and organized in a way, but it's like, I think maybe 2 meetings would do it if we did like 2 in June or June and July, something like that. And we had these meetings. It would get everything out in the open. It would help us solidify what we want out of the Republican Party. And it would be an amazing networking event. So Jim Jordan, you're mentioning Jim Jordan, Jim should participate. He'd be able to articulate his vision. He'd be able to meet everybody in the room and articulate, hey, I think I could do this job, and it's kind of like a campaign. You'd be able to put your words out there and explain it in a way that would make people vote for you. And then, the third meeting, we'd have an election, and we would elect as a body a new leadership team. That makes sense to me. I do not like picking people in advance. I don't think that I should just simply, you're on mute, Rob. I don't think that I just should simply become chair. Rob, you're on mute, man.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not picking anybody for anything. I agree.
No,
with you.
I'm not saying you are. I just want to clear that up.
I'm just saying we have to get people who are able to take those positions, and I'm looking for people who are willing to do this and do it without being suspicious, because they're gonna and
right.
You know what I mean? We still need good people on that board, but I think because we have the better argument and we are trying to be more transparent, that people will see that it's in everyone's best interest to have someone on that executive committee, whoever they are, who's willing to work with both sides, all sides, because there's more than just 2 sides in every group. I mean, there's all kinds of factions you can find in different groups, and they need to be able to get them to work together. And it's going to take someone who has the social skills and professionalism that is not found in the current leader of the party. And I'm just, like I said, I'm snowballing names, and I haven't even reached out to Jim Jordan, but someone was asking me the other night, and I might as well say Steve and we were talking about people who could possibly potentially move forward in that. And I said, Jim would be the perfect one, but he's not the only one. I mean, maybe, Carol Yardley, she's got too much on her hands, but boy, she would be perfect if she could. I mean, she's got so much, and God bless you, Carol. I just love you. And I'm so sorry you're going through so much stuff, and give Elmer our blessings. We just love the guy. I wish he was here. I wish he could be doing more. And I'm sorry you got screwed over at the Republican meeting because, I don't know, procedures, ego, you figure it out. I don't know. But, Carol would be the perfect person to put on that board, because we saw how she handled herself in in North Bend, and boy, I'm just rambling on. I'll shut up now.
No, it's all good. Like normally this would be how it would progress over years, right? You'd have active participation in an organization, and natural leaders would participate and articulate their vision and network, and that's how they would get to the top and get elected. We haven't had that here in Coos County. We've had submission, we've had exclusion. So you have these meetings, and the only people that are there are the people who they've allowed to be there, and the only people talking are the only people that they've allowed to be talking. And then, like, I've heard they've given presentations about you, Rob, and some other people during these meetings to shit on you guys, essentially. And that's crazy, you know? So they are manipulating that normal process. So what I would be looking to do, whether Michael is, you know, forcibly removed or whether he resigns himself, I would become an interim chair. And what I would like to do during that period, hopefully it's a month or two, and that's how long, that's the only amount of time it takes, would be to do that process, to allow an open, dynamic meeting where people can participate. And I know that a natural leader would emerge, multiple natural leaders would emerge, and we would have an election at the end of it that everyone would be supportive of. Like you mentioned, people need to work with all the different groups.
Yeah.
Those sorts of meetings, town halls, that format would allow that leader to emerge, somebody who could work with all sides. And I think that's the best way to do it. But I'm only one person, and I only have certain avenues. The other option is to wait a year and a half from now to have that actual election that is by the book, by the bylaws. There's a recall process, or the guy could resign. But without either of those, we'd have to wait until next primary to get voting members elected. And then the following November is when those voting members elect a leadership team. So it's just a really shitty thing to make us wait that long when we're clearly being ineffective.
Maybe him getting sued for discrimination will speed up his decision.
Maybe. I still can't believe that. Like, I thought for sure, you know, that the barrier was that he didn't know how to set it up, or he didn't think that, like, he thought maybe people would be mad at him for setting it up. I don't know. I just thought there was some barrier, and I broke through the barrier by setting it up, and literally had Carol and Elmer on the screen, and like walked the laptop up to him before the meeting. And I was like, hey, I have Carol and Elmer here. And he just immediately was like, no, we're not allowed to do that. I mean, it's like, what? There's some other
You might be required by law to do that, bro.
Right. My feeling, just as an outsider, my feeling on that was that he felt like you were bringing people to the meeting that would side with you, and he didn't want that.
For sure. That's most likely what he was concluding,
Yeah.
Which isn't up to him. Even if that is what I was doing, sorry,
It's true.
you can't discriminate against people
It's not up
just
to him.
because
Yeah.
you're afraid of the way people might vote. And if you're afraid of the way people might vote, maybe you should have different leadership skills and perform better at your job, and they wouldn't vote that way. But anyways,
the annoying part is that they told us, bring your enthusiasm, bring your ideas, maybe a few friends. That was all part of their language on their page, that somebody, whoever's in charge of that,
we were all tagged in.
Yeah.
And then I reached out to her, and we had a back and forth about my personal beliefs, and she basically told me to go start my own political party. And then when I looked into it and found out that my beliefs actually align with the National Republican Party perfectly, so I messaged her again and was like, hey, I'm really unhappy about this. And we got into a back and forth where I was extremely respectful, but still confronting the issue. Like, you're the person coordinator. The way you treated me was unacceptable. And she flipped out, wrote me a big nasty paragraph about how she's at work and she can't deal with this, and then blocked me. That's their person coordinator. That's the person that they have bringing people into the political party. And I can show people the screenshots of the messages so that you can see that I was in no way being belligerent. I was being extremely direct, which is
you're being productive.
I
You're
get
being
to the point, land the
constructively.
plane.
Yeah, like
I
And,
tell the
and
truth.
there's no reason, there's no bylaw, nothing that says that if you have different beliefs on abortion or birth control, that
Right?
there's some reason you have to be excluded from the party. There's no anything like that. And Dorchester, which they were talking about Dorchester, bragging about Dorchester. Dorchester was something that was created by moderate Republicans who wanted to attract uh, uh, libertarians and Democrats and non-affiliated voters who might, think that they are, pro-choice, and because there's pro-choice Republicans, and they wanted to attract these people because during the Reagan era there was a lot of the, right to life movement, and so they were trying to get these moderate Republicans, and that's what Dorchester was all about.
And Michael was bragging about attending
Yeah.
the event.
Thank you. Right.
I was very direct with her, and I would call it confrontational, but absolutely professional. Basically saying, the way you've treated me is absolutely unacceptable. This is a professional failure on every level.
You
And
did that after, like, you started out the conversation completely normal. So like
hey,
verify
just
that
wondering
too.
what I
You
can do.
right.
Yeah.
And she had asked you to reach out to her.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
just, I don't know, that we like, it's, I get so frustrated because we're talking about stuff that just makes so much sense. Like, if you have a position where literally your like role is to go and attract more people and make them feel welcome and feel
Do that.
included, then don't do that. But also don't give it to somebody who you know does not have good social skills. Don't give it that position to somebody who is not a people person. And
Merit.
that particular person just isn't. She has other qualities that are wonderful and an asset to any group. But being a person coordinator is no not in that realm. And we just have to understand that. Part of leadership is understanding who you got, who's on the team, what their assets are, like a coach. You know what, you don't put somebody who like is really good catching the ball but bad at kicking it at striker. You put them in goalie because they're good with catching the ball.
I have to give Julie
crazy.
C's kudos. I consider her a friend. I like Julie. I think she's got great qualities. I think she's a wonderful person. And Brandy, I'm sorry you saw a little bit of an ugly side of her. And I've always remember, people are always caught in those bad moments. I've got a lot of ugly moments that if you saw on video, you'd go, wow, I'm never going to like this person. I hate this guy. And until they meet me, they don't change their mind. But for Julie, she's done an incredible job on the North Bend School Board. She's made all the right decisions.
I voted for her.
Right. You voted for her. You supported her because she was doing all the right things.
Yeah.
So, this is healthy criticism, because I would never be able to be in that position either, because I'm an asshole. I mean, you know what I mean? There are people out there, I'd say, well, fuck you. We don't want you in the party either. And I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. Gail, if you're watching, please forgive me. But you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want Julie to think that we're bashing her, because she brings a lot of skill to the table, like you were saying, Chris. But like you said, the position,
but not in that role.
Not in that role. No, it's like Michael. Michael would bring a lot to the party. He has a lot of assets as well when it comes to the legislature and crunch. He knows numbers and stuff, but not as a spokesman, not as a leader.
And that's part of leadership, though. You've got to protect your people, and you've got to know what environments are dangerous for them, because they're weaker in those areas. And by throwing them into that arena where they're weak, unless you're trying to like strengthen them and build them up, like, it's crazy. So the same thing with Michael. Like, Michael would be a great asset to the team as like the state and federal level go-to guy. I don't know what title you give that person, but like every meeting, give Michael, I don't know, maybe 20-30 minutes even to talk about all the state and federal stuff, and he could nerd out on it and give us an update, and we would learn about it. But having him run a meeting, having him articulate and carry out a vision for the party, it's not his strength. And we need somebody who is strong and capable of doing that.
It's important to separate the person from the role, as people. And I think people, when they begin to identify with the role, like, who I am as Michael Brainard, I am the chairman of the Republican Party of Coos County. And if that is like so important to him that it is a part of his identity, he's gonna kind of go off the rail. And I kind of like forgot where I was going with that, but like,
I would say dress for success, or if you want the part, you dress for it or whatever, right? Like you're going for a job interview, you dress for it. And I don't think he's done that either. Like rising to the occasion, all of these things. I get it reeks of entitlement when I see somebody
person and
like
role
that in the,
separate. Yes.
yeah, I don't know. But you got your thought back. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, a person who is performing poorly in a particular role that maybe isn't suited to them is not a bad person. But when people are really emotionally attached to their position, they
Mhm.
blur those lines between who they are as a person and who they are as a worker. And so when you criticize their work, they take it as a criticism of them personally as a person. And I wish we could all kind of get away from that. I know it's really hard, but at no point have I ever or would I ever, unless given a reason to, criticize Julie as a person. And I do know a lot of people really like her as a person. In this circumstance, though, I can't say, oh, her failure was okay because she's a good person. No, 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 it's not acceptable. If she did this to me, she's probably done it to a lot of people. And this could have cost the Republican Party hundreds of members, dozens of PCPs, and thousands of voters. So no matter how good of a person she is, this type of underperformance cannot be acceptable. We need to put people in roles where they thrive. And people who are in these roles need to have this humility to step back and say, I am not doing my party the best service by, hand it over to somebody that's going to run with it and kill it.
Well, and we can't have people that are in the positions when they're criticized, they lash out. When you're criticized, you have to go, man, wow, there's a disconnect. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
not doing the job I think I'm doing. But instead, they attack the person who's giving the criticism. And I don't know, I know what you're trying to say, but the way that some of these people have taken to criticism and attacked the people giving the criticism, who are trying to do it in a constructive, well-meaning manner, and they go out and attack them. Those people to me are bad people. They really are. I'll go out, I'll say that. If you're going to stand there and try and silence people and attack them, you're not a good person. In my opinion, you've never been a good person. You have no role being a leader. If that's the way that you handle somebody trying to help the organization move in a better direction. Maybe I'm a bad person for feeling that way.
Can I give a shameless plug, Chris?
Yeah.
I am a life and health coach, and I have an incredible leadership program, and I am really, really good at what I do. If you guys want to get better and learn to fix this stuff and perform better in your role, I will help you. Or your money back guarantee, 3 months with me, and you'll be in a completely different
There you go.
space.
Well, this is perfect for you. You've got a whole bunch of people you can choose from as new clients. So I would encourage people.
90 days and I'll change your life.
Next meeting, you should come and have business cards and just hand them out to everybody.
I don't really give out business cards because I do most of my networking is really in person,
free consultation.
Look at how cute they are.
Hey, those are cool.
Isn't that adorable? And all I did was put my website, because my website has all the information. So that's just what this was for.
We used to do networking at the party. We used to, that was part of when we were going around talking to people. What do you do? What's your business? And if they had a business or if there was something, we used to promote it. Oh, okay. and
gala fundraisers,
yeah,
do all
and
kinds of cool
and
stuff.
you would be networking with people. I don't know how many times, and I think you were there, Chris. The last meeting I went to a couple of months ago, I brought coffee to drop off. You know what I mean? It's like it's, and I picked up some tuna. It's wonderful, the barter system, and so. But yeah, this is people can get together and do politics and be in a safe space because they know everyone who's there is a Republican or a conservative or is someone who doesn't believe in canceling out businesses or destroying people's livelihood. And you could feel safe networking with these people and think of that as a way to build the party. And we used to kind of do that back in the day, but what happened? What happened to us, man?
Rob, I'm going to start calling myself Republican adjacent.
There you go.
You identify as Republican.
You could
And
just
you
do what I
know-
did
yeah,
and
yeah.
just become a Republican.
Maybe one of these
Jeremy,
days.
bring in the common sense.
Yeah.
How dare you?
So I won't get, it's for personal reasons and I won't get into it. I'll just leave it at that because nobody wants to hear about my personal bullshit.
We'll save that for another show that we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
air.
Yeah.
But I really am so frustrated at the lack of like reading the room too. Like we have a system in place. Like we could have called an executive meeting and said before the Thursday meeting and said, hey, shit's going to be wild. What do we do? How should we run this? Should we modify the agenda? Should we, there's some big names showing up. You've got Rob Taylor. He's going to have something to say.
Oh,
Should
that
we
just
call him
sparked
ahead
such
of
an
time?
idea in
Maybe
me.
should we have him in the executive meeting as like an advisor? How does he think we should, like all of these things, none of it. They don't do any of it. They go full retard in the opposite direction and go, no, we're going to use Robert's Rules of Order to shut down any discontent. Anyway, so go for it, Brandy.
Oh,
You had an idea.
What was my thought? It was good. Oh, what were you talking about? I got like engrossed into what you were saying and I lost my train of thought.
I got to stop when you interrupt me.
It was something about the
Perry,
executive meeting and they could
calling it.
energy. Okay, so part of being a good leader means you manage energy. And you teach people how to produce energy. Like you manifest that when you have a group of people come to you and they are very pissed off. Do you know how much energy that is?
That's it.
You can turn
That's
around,
harness it,
make
send
those
it in
people
the right
feel
direction.
heard, get on their map, make them feel seen, make them feel understood, build a bond with them. And by the end of the meeting, you are all screaming the same war cry. Like that, there was and I think that was what was so frustrating for me is just watching this opportunity, all of these people shouting because they had this bottled up energy that they want to be a part of something new, different. They want to see change. They want to see action. And they showed up and they were ready to give that. And the leadership team just did nothing with it. They wasted all of that energy. You can't buy that kind of enthusiasm with Democrat money.
You are absolutely right. They should have capitalized on all of that energy, all of those people there. And that's what I was saying at the very beginning. As soon as someone started up, let's have that conversation, man. This sounds like a great thing. That's better than what we're doing. You know what I mean? And there are procedures to set that stuff aside. And it just ticks me off that someone didn't see that as clearly as most of us sitting there saw that. And I do want to make a point about something Jeremy said, because I thought it was very interesting, Jeremy, because you were a newcomer to that meeting. And I've been going to that meeting going back to the early 2000s. And so I'm an old timer in the Republican Party. I've been there more than most of those people who have been there, who are there now. And so when Carol Yardley and Elmer were on the phone, they've been in the party longer or just as long as Michael Brainerd and all those people there. So they knew who Carol and Elmer were. So even though I completely get it as an outsider, I would be thinking the same thing. Chris is just trying to pull a fast one and he's bringing people in. Maybe not that Chris was trying to pull a fast one, but you know what I mean? That he's trying to bring people in.
They could think that.
Yeah, you could totally think that. I could totally get that. But the thing was that there were people who were well known, and Michael knew this, and that's
right,
what
these are people who normally attend the meeting.
Normally,
these were not some rando people who I'm just bringing in for a vote. and
well, you did also help bring in 8 other people to become precinct chairpersons, and that if that had been allowed and that had been voted on, then that would have been enough people to sway some stuff also. And I think that they were thinking that also. I can't read people's minds.
No, that's absolutely what they're thinking. And I mean, in a way, yes, like I want the party to go in a different direction. And part of that process is to get new people involved. And they've said this too. They constantly say we need to get new people. You know what I always hear from the prior chair? He always says, just a few years ago, we had 160 or 150 PCPs, precinct committee people, voting members of the body. We had 150. And he goes, and it's like, okay, but now we're at 48. And they're like, well, that's because people don't want to participate. People don't want to be involved. I go, hold on, go back. So is 150 a good number? Is it good to have more people involved? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, then why are you complaining that I'm getting more people involved? And it's because what Jeremy's saying, they think it's my people. And it's like, I don't tell you guys how to vote. Nope. Like, yes, they're my people because they're the people that I talk to. I talk to you guys and I say, hey, do you want to be a part of this? And they can do that too. They could go and talk to their people and get them involved. And I would have no issue with that. And we could get all the way up to 150 if we both do that. And that's great. We would have, I ran a business once where the people they were all yes people to me. It was like, yes. It was everything, anything I said they wanted to do. And it scared the shit out of me. I'm like, I hate this. I'm like, no, I want to talk about my ideas. I want to have some bounce back. I need you to give me constructive feedback.
You need collaborative.
I don't want you to, right. It scared the shit out of me. I was like, what is happening? I don't want to just do whatever I want and get whatever I want. That's not good. That's not healthy. Wrong? Right. You need that. You need to bounce ideas off of people.
So your conflict style is probably collaborative, and other people may have different conflict styles. And so that can be kind of a rub. If you know to look for it, you can overcome that stuff quite a bit quicker. But yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that.
It like happened. And I was like, what have I done? What kind of business have I created? So, but anyways, Perry, you haven't said much, and I know you're a thinker. You've got thoughts. Come on, man.
So, just by their actions, they don't want to grow the party. They don't want more people who might disagree. They want the status quo. They want it to stay the same as it has been year after year, and it's wrong, but they're just going to continue to fail.
Well, we all fail, right? Like if they fail, we all fail. If you're part of the conservative movement around here and you have conservative values, then we're all going to suffer because of it. Every single one of us. And that's actually what got me involved, and it's what's gotten you involved and other people from the very beginning, because we don't want to continue to see this stuff happening. And when you think through it all and you put emotion aside, and you're not just like angry because the cop didn't arrest the guy who broke into my car or whatever, right? Like that would be like a very quick emotional knee-jerk reaction to an event. But when you like think of the full picture, you go, well, why is crime so bad? It's because of policy. Well, who set that policy? What kind of party, what kind of playbook set that policy in motion? And how how could we make that policy better? Well, is there a playbook for better policy? Oh, it's the conservative movement, right? You start going through this whole thought process and you boil it down to, we need to support conservative policy and conservative value because they've outlined a playbook that will work. And you look at other conservative states, and not that they've solved every single issue, but like there's a reason why liberal states like California, Oregon, and the like, New York, have a lot of the issues they have. And it's
Now,
because
it
of the
didn't,
policy.
New York didn't used to. So I had a really interesting experience of living in New York City under Mayor Bloomberg.
As an old
It
school
was-
liberal.
It was extremely safe. I used to run up and down the streets of Manhattan at 4 o'clock in the morning, drunk in a cocktail dress with no shoes on. Not a lick of danger to be found. Now, granted, you don't become a straggler, you don't wander off into, dark alleys, but it was super safe.
Was Bloomberg right after Giuliani and like the broken windows theory, like stop and
Yes.
frisk?
So what the broken windows theory and stop and frisk did was it kept crime in the individual's neighborhood. So in New York City, if you were not in a bad neighborhood, you were pretty safe. And that was largely because of stop and frisk, because if they left the neighborhood, they would get stopped and they would get caught with the criminal paraphernalia that they had on them. And so it did a really good job of keeping lower crime neighborhoods insulated a little bit. It worked. People can say whatever they want against it and about it to criticize it. It worked. It kept innocent people safe. So I don't really know how people want to balance what is more important. Is making sure that
balance
we
is a
don't
good word.
frisk more Black people important? Or is making
Right.
sure that his 12-year-old doesn't get abducted in a van and gang raped more important? Because we're seeing the effects of different policies, like the math is mathing.
Right, like
I
no
haven't been
policy
back-
is like perfect. There's a
Right.
balance, right? There's always
Right.
consequences to any policy. And like you're saying, you have to choose what's more important. Is it more important to have some of these social and emotional policies enacted where you're like not offending
Right.
anybody and you're being really nice to everybody? Meanwhile, crime is rampant, merit
Right.
is nowhere to be found. We
Right.
have super high taxes.
And no
You
one
have to
wants
find
to
a
have the
balance.
conversation about why certain people get stop and frisk more than others. Like no one wants to have the cultural conversation. No one wants to have like the behavioral conversation. That's taboo, and eventually, hopefully, we'll get there. But listen, it worked. So I don't know what to tell people. Do you want to have a society where like we treat people special and give them special privileges because
no,
of the
we
color of
certainly
their
don't
skin,
have
and they get overlooked even though they're exhibiting every sign of criminality, but they're a certain color, so we better not push too
Well, it's
hard on
definition
that.
of success. Like, is your definition of success that no person is discriminated on based on all these categories?
No one
Or is your
cared about
definition
that
of
in New York.
success that we don't have a high rate of crime, right? And
Right.
like, I care more
Okay.
about a high rate of crime than someone being discriminated against because it happens.
Okay, hold on. And boy, we
King
got off in
Taylor.
the weeds here because I disagree with you, Brandy. And that's the beautiful thing about having people around who are like-minded. We're going to have these small disagreements. I agree with the broken window policy that you break a window, you're going to pay for that window and you're going to get punished for it. That's the broken window policy, that you punish the small crimes, they don't commit the large crimes. And I also believe that also with that mayor, they had stronger penalties for repeat offenders. That's when the three strikes you're out. I
It
support
was
both
very
of those.
popular. Mhm.
The one I don't support is the stop and frisk, and here's why. I don't know if you've ever been through a stop and frisk, but personally, I found it degrading, humiliating, and I didn't do a damn thing. And I don't
What
give a
state
damn
did it
what
happen
color
to
you-
you in?
New Mexico. And I was coming out of my apartment, and I happened to suffer the crime of being white in a brown neighborhood. And of course, they wanted to know, why am I in this neighborhood? And I'm like, well, there's my apartment officer. Well, that's nice. we're going to frisk you now and take everything out of your pockets. And I had to take everything out of my pockets, put it all up on my hood, and they went through my wallet. They went through everything. It was humiliating. I was going to work. I was a working guy. And
I'm
they
sorry
got a
that happened to
call,
you, Rob.
and they got into their car and they
That's
take
shitty.
off. And I'm standing there with my pockets out like bunny ears, you know, and it's like, are you kidding me? What the hell just happened to me? I feel like I've been violated. So I'm with you on the broken windows policy. I'm with you on 3 strikes you're out and making people pay. There's a punishment for your crime. I'm all in on that one. But the stop and frisk, yeah, the 4th Amendment is kind of still important to me.
Sounds like what you experienced was an abuse. And unfortunately, I think some of these policies do lend to abusive people getting into positions of power and using them to be abusive. I will say, when I lived in New York, I have had experiences with the police, like nothing major, and I won't get into it, but I was not given any special privileges. I'll say that. I have had situations where I was in a van full of giant Haitian men, and like long dreads, 6, 7 feet tall, 6 feet tall, like just giant dudes. And we were going to a house party in Long Island, and we were in a very wealthy neighborhood. And so we pull up in this giant van, and a bunch of Haitian dudes start pouring out, and there happened to be a cop driving by. And they stop, and they're like, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" Because they didn't look like they were from the neighborhood. And then I jump out of the van, and I'm like, "Little."
Right.
And one of these things is not like the other.
You
And
Right.
were
all of the
clearly
cops
kidnapped.
were just like looking at each other. And I walk up to the cop, and I'm like, "What's going on? What's happening?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing. Just stopped to see what you guys were doing." I'm like, "We're going to hang out with our friends."
Yeah.
Mosey along.
But it's okay for
And
someone to be suspicious about that, right? Like
Right.
the
That was
whole
perfectly
point of
fine.
like
they didn't
public
but they
safety is
didn't
that you
frisk
need to
us.
be more alert.
It didn't
But
The thing is, though, it didn't go any further than them just asking us who we were and what we were
Right.
It
doing.
shouldn't. It shouldn't. That's what I'm saying.
You
It
didn't
Like,
need
shouldn't.
to
they
flip
didn't
their
look in the
pockets inside
van.
out.
They didn't there was nothing like that. And the 8 years that I lived there, I have never heard of someone being inappropriately stop and frisked. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but
Right.
I worked as a bartender, and like, you meet all kinds of people, and I never heard of that being used abusively in New York City. Now, could it have
I'm
happened?
sure it happened.
Absolutely.
Oh, I guarantee
Could it
you
be
it happens.
happening
It happened all the
other
time, to the
places?
point where there were so many
Absolutely.
lawsuits. The city had to no, the state. It was the state, because they got sued and they lost in court. They had to what is it called? Rescind the law. And so,
Wow.
yeah, this happened nationwide. It was New York and New Mexico, and I forget which other states had these
Wow.
policies. And the
It's
funny thing
wild that
is I don't know if it really worked in New Mexico. I couldn't tell you if it did or not. I really don't know. It was violent. Well, from my standpoint, it didn't work because there was a drug gangbanger on every damn corner, followed by a prostitute, followed by vagrants. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, it wasn't a pretty.
And why'd you leave, Rob?
I
Why
don't
would
know.
you leave?
I finally got married and said, the wife ain't going to dig this for too long.
it sucks so bad that we have to design policies to be abusive human proof. Because people who are abusive and are going to enjoy roughing up some random dude for no reason are going to seek out these positions of power where they can do these things.
We need to get back to the meeting because we missed an important part. And I love what you just said, Brandy. I'm not
No, go ahead.
passing you along, but it's there was a point made, Jeremy, I think you made it, about the precinct captains that showed up, or people who showed up to be precinct captains. They were there for a specific reason. And the party denied those people on the chance that they were never going to show up. there was a good chance that you guys might have walked out that door, because I'll be honest with you, Jeremy, me and Chris talked about this, and we thought all of you were going to walk out that door and never want to come back to a meeting again. And everyone that walked out that door that I talked to outside of the building was all in on coming back and doing something about the Republican Party. And I want to thank you, Jeremy, and all the people that were standing around there who wanted to do that, because I think you got shafted at that meeting. And all the people, it was unbelievable, all the people who walked out shouting. When's the last time you seen a meeting like that? I mean, the last time I was at a windmill meeting. I was at a windmill meeting last year, and people were pissed off about those wind turbines coming in, and they were yelling as they were going out the door. That's the kind of meeting this was. And it was just wild that we had to put each other through that, because if the only explanation is that it's a captive party, because they know too well what they're doing.
We thought we were invited.
Right.
And
I'll tell you, I
found
thought,
out that we actually weren't.
Right.
I thought Michael Brainerd was like in his mid-20s, just judging by his body language and vocabulary, and he's 35.
Mm-hmm.
This could really, like, I don't know what kind of career he's trying to have, but man, this hit like loss after loss after loss of the Republican Party, the party that he chaired. How is
Yeah.
he going to be able to convince anybody that he can do whatever it is he's trying to make people think he can do?
Right. People who care about him should never have put him in that role. And Jeremy, you are invited. You were invited. You'll continue to be invited. Everyone is invited to these meetings.
Everyone.
And don't let a knucklehead or a group of knuckleheads who don't give a shit about actually making things better tell you otherwise. So
Right. Well, that's
keep
exactly
coming,
the point.
please.
We went for a reason, and that reason didn't change.
Right.
And I think that's why.
It will never change.
Right. And that's why I'll keep going.
And that's so cool, because that's exactly what Steve Nye said. And, you know, he showed up to that meeting, and
I
the
like
resolve,
him. He's a cool dude.
the resolve he had to want to come back and do this again was just great. Oh, there it is. That was a good comment he made. Yeah, good stuff, man.
Cool.
He says, this, I guess he's talking about like the conversation and everything, has ignited two individuals that support business and conservative ideas. I give you my word, I will do everything in my personal power to help. Steve's somebody I've talked to after the meeting. I've talked to a couple other people. So like I had 8 applications at the last meeting for people who want to become members of, you know, of the voting body and become a lot more involved in the party. And that number has only grown. And I would welcome anybody from any faction of the party to invite people and to get them involved and to let's all become voting members, so we can all have our voices heard in a structured, orderly fashion, and get together and move this party forward. It's just insane to me that it's not happening. Yeah. Perry, you go, Perry. Now's your time.
Well, they're complete failure. Obviously they see it. You can't deny it, even though I think they're trying to. But it needs to be addressed, and they're running from it. They don't want to talk about it. Anybody that brings it up, they don't want them talking. And if this part doesn't get straightened out, then the failures will not quit. Nobody will want to vote. Nobody will know who to vote for. And if David Brock Smith keeps doing what he does, ignorant Republicans will be voting for Democrats that they don't even believe in anything they believe in. It's
right. A more coordinated party would have had events early on in the election to bring candidates in and present them to the conservative party, the conservative members of Coos County, and promote them and organize around them. We should have had, like any of the conservative candidates, we should have been invited to like a weekly Zoom call where we talk about how the campaigns are going, what we can do to help each other, coordinate on things. I mean, someone in the leadership of the Republican Party should have been repeatedly asking, what can we do to help you? I know I did that personally, and I know a couple other people who did that personally, and that's wonderful. But if we're all just doing this in silos, right? If we're all offering our services
Right.
and this and that in our own little individual realm, that's great, but it's not going to, then what do we need a party for? Why even have an organization if we're all going to do that on our own? It doesn't make any sense. So part of it is coordinating, and that's what we needed to have done. And those are the conversations that I wanted to have, and I'm sure you guys wanted to have, so that we could fix it for the next election, which is just around the corner. Filing is in September for the May primary. We have 2 commissioner seats. We have a clerk, sheriff. I don't know about treasurer, and city council positions and Senate seats, like state legislature. Like, so much is at stake in the next year, and we need to start preparing for that now.
Right.
And that's why this needs to happen. And it should have happened months ago, but it didn't.
So people got to remember, in the even years, you're picking governor or president, you're picking commissioners and city councilors. That's pretty simple. That's pretty black and white. In the off years, this is where the Republicans lose, because they don't focus locally. Once again, proving my theory, they're a captive party. And because they don't focus locally, they lose all that momentum. But gosh, now where was I going with this? Shit.
You guys keep losing your train of thought.
Keep losing my train of thought. But no, it was they we talk about it so much.
And it's not because I interrupted.
No, so you can't blame him.
That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous.
I'm Michaela puts okay, so here Michaela has a great comment. She says you should all join RUCPAC, Republican Unity Caucus, and this is something that I'll probably be getting involved with, because this is why you have a political party. Political parties exist to get candidates elected. That's their job. That's their main function.
Yes.
And yeah, and so we've got a RUCPAC, that's Republican Unity Caucus. And this is what I've been doing with the Republicans. When I was on the radio station and I was doing the political thing there, I was running parallel campaigns to what the Republican was doing. We worked in unison. We worked in a team without ever really being that cohesive. I kind of put them at arm's length, so I looked more objective. Well, Michaela here has a great idea. And this was started by Ben Edel, but they've got RUCPAC, and here's the website here. This is a miscellaneous political PAC that can focus on issues and candidates that support the issues that the PAC supports. And so you can use this to run parallel campaigns with the party to build up the candidates. And that's how we build up our candidates, is you have more than just one entity supporting these candidates, but you still have to have a functioning Republican Party. And partly the reason we have to have the political action committee is because we can't depend on the party to be functioning. So you got people like Michaela, who's an expert at campaigning, at putting campaigns together, at writing legislation, at writing bylaws, who's been in this for a long time. And she works very hard. She's an incredible lady. And she has put together a lot of stuff and has now taken charge of RUCPAC. And there are chapters there, and we're going to probably have to become a chapter so that we can work on that parallel campaign. And one of the reasons I'm claiming that David Brock Smith committed voter suppression is by 2 ways. He got me kicked off the air, which I don't think he knew was what was going to happen, but we lost the ability to promote people for the entire electoral season on a highly listened to radio station. And that really put us at a disadvantage. And then because of that battle, we had discourse in the Republican parties, and the incompetence in the Republican Party led to us not having a functioning party to run that parallel campaign. So those 2 lines of getting people elected, because that's what the party does, is get people elected. That's what we do. And why do we do it? Chris nailed it. Policy. All of this is about policy. I don't care who you are, what you call yourself. If you're getting into office and you're willing to back the policies that I agree with, I'm supporting you. And that's what it's all about.
Yep.
You have to get that together. And we had that at one time.
And for people who don't follow us and don't talk to us one-on-one, we're not talking MAGA. We're not talking like MAGA. We're talking like traditional conservative roots. Like Google search Oregon Republican Party platform. It's 18 pages and it spells out. So if you have questions, it really articulates what that vision is. It's not the crazy stuff you hear in the media. It's well thought out policy. It's well thought out political philosophy. And it doesn't mean we're always going to be right, but like, that's what we feel, and it's articulated, and we want to present that to the people as a solution. And we're always willing to talk, but like that's what we need to support. If we believe in it, we need to support it. And if you believe in the Liberal Party platform, you can support it too, and make sure that organization is working. We're doing this on the conservative side because it's not working.
And Brandy, because it's a nonpartisan PAC. Anyone can be a member, and that's another instrument in the wheel of your campaign. At the party, you have a political action committee. Then you have to have a campaign action committee. There you have to have that political action committee, and like I said, you have to have the media, because that now works as the arm of both parties. You got Fox News pimping for the Republicans. You've got CNN pimping for the Democrats. Well, that's literally what I was doing for the Republican candidates. I was pimping for them. I regret it a lot of times, man. Some of them, man, I can tell you, you put them out on the street and they never produce. Damn whores.
But you're also not just saying this. Like, I've heard from people in office, Republicans in office, who have said like the one of the main reasons I got elected was because I was able to go on the Rob Taylor show on the radio and, talk for an hour or so and be interviewed and share my vision for the position to an audience that then riled around me and supported me and got me elected. Like, hands down. I mean, some people have even said that was the sole reason they got elected. And yes, David Brock Smith took that away from Coos County. And he was proud of it. When I asked him if that was true, because somebody, people had told me, oh, David Brock Smith got his radio show canceled. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I didn't see his signature under that decree. So I asked him, I met with him in private and I said, is there any truth to that? And he got this proud smirk on his face. And he said, yeah, I got his show canceled. And then he backpedaled because I think he saw my reaction, which was like, did you just say that? And he tried to say, oh, well, I only called the radio station owner and told him that the show should be canceled, but the radio station owner made the decision, right? Like that's how someone's, tries to play logic and play facts.
Other radio option broadcast.
So here's the deal. We've looked into purchasing radio stations, and they're pretty high dollar value because you can't get an FCC license right now because they're not giving them out. There's a certain limit that they have in an area because of the bandwidth. And because of that, they can only give out certain amount of license. So there's no license up for grabs. And anyway, we'd have to, I have investors and they would have to be women, minorities, people of color, because that's who they give FCC license to. They don't give them to white guys like me. It's pretty pathetic, the form. It's sad. And the other thing is that the radio stations are very high dollar and it just wouldn't be worth it to purchase them. The last one that went up for sale was KDOC, which was bought by Mike Wilson, who owns Bicoastal Media. That's where I got kicked off of, Bicoastal Media. And they
is there a monopoly?
They bought that for $300,000.
Antitrust situation going on right here?
No, he has to follow strict rules where he can only have a certain amount of radio station license, and I believe it's 7 license. He has 7 stations. And get this, he bought a radio station, the KDOC, for $300,000, and he sold an equivalent radio station for $30,000. And we could never figure out why he would take such a loss for trading a similar radio station, other, I guess, than maybe the advertising power of KDOC.
Listeners, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you're also not giving credit to like the history of your radio spot. I mean, everyone in Coos County knew that if you wanted to listen to conservative politics,
Right.
it was Mondays from, what was it, 3 to 6?
3 to
I mean,
6.
that and on a specific station, like everyone knew that.
I
So that's
and
all
I
gone
didn't do
now.
that.
You can't
Right.
you can't undo that by
And I
buying a
didn't
radio
build
station.
that. So people who think I'm tooting my own horn, the only reason I got that was that Jim Bice allowed me to come on as a guest and then had me on as a co-host. And that went on for about 3 or 4 years. He was on for 10 years on that spot specifically because we knew it was the top drive-by radio time is Monday at rush hour when everyone's going home. And so we took that spot. And so I kept it when I took the radio station because I knew it got high ratings. And so, yeah, I knew what I was doing. I was an activist and I just kind of weaseled into this little radio station and thought, wow, what a great way to promote my ideas, my candidates and all this stuff. And do it right here on the radio station because I was an activist and that's what I was doing anyway. And so, you know, and I'm still doing that because I was never going to go away. And that's what they didn't understand when they tried to shut me up was I wasn't a journalist. I'm an activist. And so.
Well, and it just took one angry little senator throwing a tantrum because you hurt his feelings to ruin all that for Coos County. And I presented that to him. I'm like, don't you have any like empathy for that fact that you took this away from Coos County? You silenced a strong conservative voice in our community, and he didn't care. He only cared about himself and what you had said about him, and those were the only things that mattered to him. Yeah, it's sad.
Right.
So but we can be better than that, and we can be bigger than that because we have way more people who support what you represent than he does. We just haven't had those people involved in the system and in politics. So that's what we need to do. We need to get more of those people involved. Perry sent me a message. He said the power went out where he's at.
Shit, Perry.
That's why he's in dark mode. we have dark Perry.
So I don't really want to talk about me, but that was just a point of election interference by
for sure.
Repression is that by getting the media, he got low output. And then by supporting Democrats, that was the big one this year. And you know why? It energized a lot of you people out there. A lot of you people saw him for what he was. I don't know how many people have come up to me and said, wow, I didn't realize how bad he was and that he was supporting Democrats and not just any Democrats, very leftist DEI pro wokeness Democrats who are protecting a sexual predator. It's crazy. And he's willing to endorse them because he didn't like you, Chris, or the people who were running. They weren't the right kind of Republicans because he wasn't able to control you. The party wasn't able to control you. You have independent minds of your own independent thoughts. And that's why people should like you and support you for any council. That reason alone. And that's why, Jeremy, I don't know you, brother, but man, I hope to get to know you better because we need people. Perry, I know you've been at this a long time, but yeah, I'd like to see more people try to shoot for these districts. You know what I mean? We can make those professional commercials. We can make, people get those portfolio shots where you guys, can dress in a suit for just one day, a suit for one day. Wear the one you wore for your last funeral you went to. It's okay, And you know what I mean? We can do these campaigns. We just have to have a functioning party. And I've lost both. And due to the same freaking guy, and it's not just me who lost it, it's an entire county who just lost it. We're losing because the damn Republicans are screwed up. So we need to get this going or we're screwed. We're going to be stuck with DEI up our ass on every stinking districts. Except the ones that aren't contested for some reason. The ones that nobody wants in fire districts. But I rented
Do people realize that they're literally trying to force women to share their locker rooms with swinging dick men? Like, I mean, do
That's
people
crazy.
realize that these people want to force you to undress your 8-year-old little girl to put her in her bathing suit in front of a swinging dick man because he identifies?
Well,
Like,
it
they
makes
want to
sense.
make us
These are
share
the
our
same people protecting a
locker
pedophile.
rooms
So
with men. And so, we think, oh, how does this affect you? Go to shewon.org. and look at the sheer number of women who have been displaced in sport by males. Like, why is it women who have to accommodate mentally ill men? Why are men not solving this problem? This is what Democrats want. They are
we're
the
trying and we're
ultimate
speaking out about it. But
bootlicking misogynists. Sorry.
yeah.
Mhm.
No, you're good.
Disgusts
No,
me.
people are
It
speaking out about it,
disgusts
but
me.
we don't have any leader in the community that can do anything about it right now. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find that person or
You know,
group
the
of
thing
people
is,
that
I
are
don't
going to
really
actually be able to push stuff forward.
like stuff like the tampons in the bathrooms it's stupid. Do you know how much it pisses women off to know that we have bled in our underwear for decades while no one cared about putting hygienic products in our bathrooms? But as soon as men start using our bathrooms, and all of a sudden there's like virtue signaling, and we got to make sure that we let people know. Now, all of a sudden, if women want to use men's bathrooms, there are pads and tampons in there for them. Why didn't
But
we
there's
have
no
that in
urinals
women's?
in the women's room. Why,
No,
why are
I
there
have
no
never been
urinals
in a
for the
women's
men who want to
bathroom
use
that
the
had
women's
free
room?
pads and tampons. Why does everyone care about putting in the men's room for the off chance that someone with a vagina is bleeding in a men's room? Because that's what they're for, right? So like why didn't all of these a-holes care about the actual women and women's rooms and having these products for the last several decades? Because this is a men's rights movement. They don't care
Right, they
about
don't
women.
actually care.
This is
Right.
all about making entitled, mentally ill men feel comfortable and sacrificing women and children at the altar of woke. And I am done with it. And anyone who wants to have a debate with me, I have an associate's degree in psychology, a bachelor's degree in
No.
sociology, and a master's degree in social organizational psychology. So bring your bullshit theory to me and let's unpack it. I like understood the assignment, and I still have all of my journal articles on my drive. So I would love to have the conversation about justifying this bullshit that they're pulling. But I went from
They
like
can't. That's why they need to take power by force and force it upon you,
I
because
have
there's
the
no
most
way to actually
liberal
debate it.
education. Like I am so liberally educated, but my education is grounded in behavior. So I can still look at this stuff and be like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And then seeing the things not that don't work, like we've seen these policies that we all thought in 2016 and 17 were a great idea when woke was gaining its popularity, 2015, right? So now we're living the product of those policies. Is it good?
No, not at all. We got to let
I
Perry in here. He's been trying to say something.
Well, so it just goes back to us and people like us will start being noticed more, because the more these Republicans are silencing us and refusing to talk and refusing to debate, and same with the other side, all them freaks that want to act like they believe in all these outrageous policies and wanting everything that they want, they have nothing to debate about, so they'll just silence you and tell you whatever you're a Nazi or whatever, and it's supposed to hurt and
overt
sting
abuse
because
every time.
they somehow try to label you as something, and it doesn't even matter. But the more people try and or refuse to debate, the better that we will look and to people like us, because we're not afraid of people trying to challenge us, because we know what we believe in, and we have everything we need to back it up.
Well, and that's why they're so good at getting power and fighting for power, is because they need it to promote their agenda. Like, I only need a couple minutes at a meeting, maybe more than a couple minutes, but you know what I mean, to articulate an argument for something and get it across, especially if I'm being listened to and they're genuinely trying to understand where I'm coming from. I don't need much time, and we should all be able to do that, right? Show up to a meeting and get a point across. But that's not what's happening, and they're really good. The other side is really, really, really good at putting together campaigns to win so that they can have complete control, because that's what they want, which like sounds, ironic. It's like, let's get a Republican Party together that can win these seats. It's like, well, because we got to win it to take it away from these people who don't want people to communicate. They don't want the community to be listened to. It's more of an art than a science, I suppose.
I'm going to go out
Is that
on
what
a
you're
limb
kind of
and
getting at?
say that if you're a person who thinks that women should have to share their locker rooms with swinging dick males, you shouldn't have power over anyone.
Right, ever. It's
Ever.
that's it.
Ever.
You keep bringing it up, but it is such a, like, that is such a crazy thing that is going
Dude,
on right now in society. It's insane. To be supporting of that is absolutely insane. And I don't think every liberal is in support of that. I don't think
why
every
are we
Democrat
not
is in support of
asking
that.
men to be
But
accommodating of all types of men? Why is it on women to make space for these dudes? Why isn't it on men to make space and accommodate all different types of men? I don't understand why it's a women's problem and why it's even put on our shoulders. Don't women have enough of like everything?
Right. Now you have to be in the bathroom with some guy who you don't know what he's going to do. And the proof of it is look at all the guys who go to prison claiming to be trans, and
Almost
then they get all these
70%.
people pregnant. Yeah, and they get women pregnant. They're getting all
Almost
these women pregnant.
70% of the trans identified males in prison who asked to be transferred to a women's prison, I believe it was like 69% of them have been charged with a sex crime. And yes, when they put these men into women's prisons, they sexually abuse the women. It's happened multiple times, and there were
Right.
pregnancies that resulted from it.
And so you want to put those same type of people in the bathroom with little girls, and someone is trying to actually make the argument, that's a good idea. What could go wrong putting some mentally unstable, purple-haired, confused which sexuality is in the bathroom with my 3-year-old daughter? And I got a
I
3-year-old
don't get
granddaughter.
why women are
I
supposed
don't know.
to accommodate it. Why
Brandy,
can't men
why are men
accommodate
allowing
this?
it? I want to
Yeah,
stand out
yeah.
the bathroom door and beat the shit out of any man who tries to go in the bathroom, and I'll go to jail for it. And in the old days, that was called valor, because people stopped perverts from going into the bathroom and exposing themselves to little girls. And now they want us to accept it. But why do they want us to accept it? Because if they can get us to accept these type of immoralities, they can get us to accept anything. It's the same reason that they got the Germans to kill all the Jews. It's the same damn reason. If they can convince you to do these audacities, convince you to believe the audacities, they can convince you to commit atrocities. It's plain and simple, and that's what they're doing with, it's okay to put the guy with the swinging dick in the bathroom with my 3-year-old. No, and I got problems with it. And more
the
men.
small child
sporting
can
events.
decide their sex. What else can they decide?
Or sporting events to take somebody who won a race, a woman who won a race, and to make them stand at like second on a podium and give the gold medal to a man. I mean, anyone who does that, who supports that. And I'm not saying we don't even have to talk about the male standing at the podium. I'm talking about the organization and the leaders around that enable that are evil. That's crazy and evil. And they have no business being in power. So
this is why elections are important.
I can't believe
because it's boards of directors who decide if your girl has to compete in volleyball against a male who's going to hit her in the head so hard with a ball that she has neurological disorders for the rest of her life. Or your daughter who's going to have to forfeit in a boxing match, an Olympic boxing match against a biological male because the first time he hit her, she knew he was going to permanently injure her if she kept going with the fight. I think that was my red pill. That photo is burned in my memory.
So is there any other scenario in this world where the little world around one person must submit to what this one person thinks or believes, or else everybody else is wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Like
I mean,
16th
Is there
century
any other
you
England
can
scenario
was
where,
respect
fine.
that person.
hey,
Yeah, if you have a minority opinion, you can respect that opinion, but it doesn't make it fact. Like I can respect Rob if he wants to decide to pretend he's anything, but it doesn't make it real. And that's the crazy part is making it real and have real life consequences.
I'm
The
king
only
of the
people who've ever
universe.
been
Prove
able to
me
force
wrong.
their delusions on a large population of people have been generally mentally ill monarchies. And we are dealing with some people who certainly do have a self-importance complex, don't they?
and there should be more examples, separate examples of scenarios similar to this if it was anywhere near normal. And there's not. You know, I could tell you whatever I wanted you to think, whatever I wanted you to think about anything, and it's never going to be okay, except for this one scenario.
Yep.
There's no logic to it whatsoever.
And I mean, the lack of consistency just goes to show that this was never about equality. This was never about treating people equally and fairly. This was about privilege for whatever reason. I still think it's a men's rights movement. I think it's a social destabilization movement. I think chaos gives reason to government, and creating this social chaos and making us fight over our basic biological reality has to be a distraction so that we don't pay attention to the fact that they're stealing all of our money and funneling it into their perverted little pet projects. Just more chaos, sowing more chaos. Because let's be real, like if the people with the power wanted to fix the problems that we have in America right now, like crumbling bridges, do you think they would be spending billions of dollars on drag shows in like, you know,
Right.
Bay Beirut? Was it Beirut? Burma? It's like
Foreign
drag
countries.
shows in
Yeah.
Burma or something like that. So, you look at
Yeah.
the billions of dollars that they've spent on that. And me and Rob kind of like had some comments on Facebook about this. Why not spend the extra money to put our solar panels on parking garage, like parking covers, cover our
Right.
parking,
Of all the things we've accomplished as a
right?
civilization, and to not be able to accomplish these simple things anymore is
Why not
amazing.
spend that money on our infrastructure? Why are we supporting this stuff overseas when we're lacking basic infrastructure? And it comes down to values. That's why voting is so important. That's why getting good candidates on the ballot, and that's why a strong party who promotes good candidates is so important, because when you get people with disagreeable values in positions of power, they spend your money in ways that are not beneficial for everyone.
That's why I don't like to give them money. Don't like to give them money. Don't like to give them power. And that way I don't have to worry too much about what they're doing. And that's, that's we wouldn't be doing this if government hasn't gotten so big that it's in every aspect of our life. We wouldn't be reacting like this. So we know instinctively that there are outside sources who are involving themselves in the most personal, private decisions that we make in our lives. And we know instinctively, maybe because we're Americans, I don't know, maybe because humans just yearn to be left the fuck alone. We know that there are people out there who are willing to go along with this shit and continue with this stuff. And I don't know. I just don't want to go along for this ride. And that's why we have to keep fighting. That's why we have to keep fighting for all the things that we're doing, because it's slowly going to eat away at it's insidious. It just keeps growing and growing, like that black moss that gets on my tomatoes, and it gets into the air and it gets on all. That's government, man. That's why we just got to take away all the money and all the power. And that's why, we got to ask people when they're getting elected what they're going to do. You know what I mean? And it's when you hear some of these Republicans speak and the issues they're pushing, you know, it's Chris, remember we were sitting there in Bandon at CRL and the three candidates for Bandon, what was their top issue? Public housing. Of course, they weren't calling it public housing. They were calling it affordable housing. And I know Chris was biting his tongue because we were trying to make these guys look good because they're going into the election. We didn't want to be the assholes in the room. And we didn't ask the hard questions because, well, you know, the alternative is worse. And it's sad because these guys are pushing public housing and they're asking people who make less than public teachers and cops, make less money than these people to pay for their housing after on top of they already pay for their salary. And it's insulting. It's just insulting. And it's hard to promote these people when they're like this. And we have to find people who are principled, who are willing to follow certain values that government has just gotten too big. And DEI is a perfect example of it when we talk about it. Teachers shouldn't be talking to our kids about sexuality, and we shouldn't even be having a discussion about the man with the swinging dick in the bathroom with the girls. It shouldn't even be a conversation.
Weird, dude.
It's so freaking weird.
It's so weird.
I gotta interject
anyone would even want to.
because we're approaching 2 hours, and I know Jeremy had a hard cutoff, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to say anything before you had to go.
I just wanted to say thanks for inviting me, and I will see you all at the next Republican meeting. Hopefully.
Cool.
Yeah,
thanks for
we'll
hanging
make
out
sure
with us,
you
Jeremy.
know when and where. It's the fourth Thursday of every month at 6 o'clock. The location changes. But dude, thanks for being on. How did 2 hours just go that quick? But I appreciate you, and I appreciate your energy in getting involved. So thanks, man. See ya.
Bye, Jeremy.
Bye. Nice guy. It was nice.
But yeah,
meet
no,
him.
I hope he gets more involved. I mean, he's very knowledgeable and stuff. He is strongly rooted in his beliefs, which is good. He knows what he believes, and he believes it strongly. And his wife as well. So
you know what's really cool about you, Chris? Because of how you are, like your personality, you have this way about you that is kind of a problematic personality repellent. And so all of the people that you have attracted to you, I've noticed this, that every person that you bring in all is devoid of these really problematic personality traits. And we all know what they are. We all know the people that are serving their egos and, you know, but it seems like these people that you're attracting to you, Chris, I've just noticed that all of these people that I'm meeting through you are freaking awesome. And not just because we necessarily think the
it's
same.
because I have zero tolerance for bullshit.
Yeah,
I cannot
because
stand
I've
being
been
around
accused of the
people who
same
are
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in it for the wrong reasons, or if you're in it, you know, for some personal agenda, I can't. I'm not gonna just put up with it just so I can get something out of you, because
Yeah.
that's just not how I operate. So
I've just noticed how your personality, because I think I do it too in my, you know, my personal life. I've just noticed that I think it is the way about you that you are not only drawing great people to you, but because of who you are actually pushing away the people that none of us want to deal with, just completely organically and naturally. So this little group of people that we're slowly building is just a really, really great group.
I agree. But no, that's what we need to do and implement it in government. As a governing body in Coos County, like every one of them, they need to be repellent of people who are there for personal agenda and personal gain. They need to be repellent of toxic personalities.
Yes.
Which I know I have people who don't like me, and they're like, well, that's Chris. Chris is the toxic personality. He's such a troublemaker and a bad man. And it's like, you know, you don't know me, and you've never seen me in a setting where I'm remotely respected. And anyways, I don't want to talk about me. But Rob was talking about CRL in Bandon. And yes, we were at this forum and they were talking, the Bandon school board candidates were talking about how they wanted to have a school board owned housing project.
Mhm.
I'm like, what am I listening
Mhm.
to? And it wasn't necessarily that I was biting my tongue because I didn't want to like out these people. I just read the room and I knew
Mhm.
that, like, I've learned in life, people only listen to you if they respect you. And my opinion on that matter would not have been respected in that room at that moment. So it wasn't worth it. And that's actually what, so I was just talking about, like, some people that are like, you're a toxic personality because you've probably seen me speak at like a city council meeting where I wasn't respected. And what I said came across with that in mind. I probably said it in a very frustrated, annoyed tone, maybe a little aggressive, because I felt like I had to fight for something because my voice isn't being heard or respected. And it comes across poor, like really bad. And I mean, some people see that as, oh, he's a warrior for our cause. But ultimately yelling at a city council meeting and being upset isn't going to win this fight. It really isn't. It might look cool. It might make for a good video, but what is going to win this fight is us all coming together, recruiting more people, finding those star candidates to lead the next part of this movement. And that's what I'd like to do. That's what the Citizen Council is. That's what our Republican Party should be, right? Like, why not start our own political action committee or our own new party? It's like, well, because we already have a conservative platform
Right.
and a
We already have
structure
one that should be
to
functioning.
so that's why, because I've struggled with that.
Right.
Don't shit on them. Don't take their organization over. Start your own. And it's like, no. It's not their organization.
It's the public's
our
organization.
right.
There
It's
have
our
been
party. If you're a
there have
conservative, it's
been
ours.
Anita Khan, the guy who owns Napa, Golder, Lee Golder, Steve Jensen, Jason Payne. Let's see, Rod Schilling. Those are some of the chairs that I remember. And so they've changed, and they were there. Most of them were handed a good party. And when they left, they should have left a better or just as good party when they left. And that was why you take the chairship. That's why you get in, to make a party, an apparatus, and to do what? To get people elected. Why are we doing this? To get people elected. And so that's all we want you to do. And when you come in, I don't care what your ideas are about your political career. What you're doing is you're running a party that has to be efficient, and you have to be willing to listen to all the sides and accept the vote when the vote is made. But you have to be willing to let people make their arguments. If you want to be respected, you want to have your arguments be respected, you got to sit there and you got to listen to the other person make their argument and make their defense. And if you don't, then the resentment that we saw at the last meeting is what builds up into fervorous, we're pissed off now because we're being stifled, and nobody wants to be stifled when we're here to try to do something. And
it's almost reactive abuse, kind of. Like, you have a person who's just been poked and poked and poked and poked and poked and poked until they finally whack. Poke them, slap them back or something. It's kind of like, siblings will be like, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. And eventually the other sibling reacts, and then they're the ones that get in trouble because they're the ones that outburst. And it is it's this cycle of the abuser provoking. And I mean, I'm not trying to say that they're necessarily abusers. They're just incompetent. But, when you put people in a position where they're subjected to this kind of authoritarian disenfranchisement and having their own voice taken away over and over and over for a period of time, eventually they're going to have an outburst. And it is kind of a very similar situation, I think, to what you would see in reactive abuse, where you have a buildup, then a blow up.
Well, I'm going to jump off, guys. I appreciate this. It was nice to ventilate, and
I think I'm ready to call it too, if you guys are ready to call it.
Harry and I are going to go for another hour.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Harry looks like he's ready to go.
Yeah, sure.
Very cool. I'll probably watch.
Where are you at, Harry?
Together. Oh, he's in the dark. His power went out.
Yeah. Are you in a vehicle? It looks like you're in your car. Where are you at, man?
No.
Oh, secret bat cave.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Well, no, this has been great. I appreciate you guys always being available to do this. Rob, you put in so much time articulating your views and vision. It's actually insane and admirable. And, you know, Perry and Brandy, appreciate you guys being on. Does anybody have any last thoughts before we... Oh, shucks. It's fine. Anybody at all going once? Harry?
Good. I think I've said enough.
Good night, guys.
Good night,
all right.
everybody.
We'll see you next Wednesday right here on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. See you.